Hey everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Doctrine podcast. Today we're going to be doing things a little different. What we're going to be doing today is counting down what we think are the worst deaths in Star Wars. Now this is going to be a little different. It's not necessarily the deaths we are the saddest about. For example, Han Solo's death, it just kills me to see it. No pun intended. Okay, maybe a little bit. But we believe Han got a pretty noble death trying to bring his son back to the light side. But what we're talking about is people who got a death that just really screwed them. They deserved much more, but for whatever reason, they got wrote a pretty crappy death. So let us know what you think in the comments. Tell us who you disagree with, who else you think got screwed. Tell us our order's wrong, whatever. Or you can tell us we're right. We're fine with that too. But yeah, hit us up in the comments, and let's get started. What we're going to be doing is going from 10 to 1. Starting us off with number 10 is Grand Moff Tarkin. Grand Moff Tarkin was in charge of the Death Star. We're introduced to him first in Episode 4, kind of. We do see him in Rogue One as well. But we see the majority of his appearance in Episode 4, New Hope, where he works with Vader and threatens Leia, gives the order to blow up Alderaan, etc. He meets his death in Episode 4 on the Death Star, as he has too much faith in their defenses and no faith in the rebels, and we all know how the Death Star ends up twice. So why Grand Moff Tarkin makes this list is because of the man who he is. Was super high up in the Empire, so that obviously gives cause that he's probably a pretty formidable foe. And beyond that, we get to learn a little bit about him in some of the literature that's been coming out, specifically the Darth Vader comics. There's also a great book, Tarkin Doctrine. But, for example, in the Vader comics, we learn that Vader and Tarkin once had a bet to see who could really best the other. And Tarkin does a really good job. He corners Vader and has you convinced that Vader is beat at one point. Vader does eventually end up winning, but it's the closest fight I've really ever seen Vader get into. So very impressive, and a pretty untimely death for a great villain played by the amazing Peter Cushing. I mean, that alone is reason enough to want him to have been in more movies. Number 9, another villainous leader, Captain Phasma. Captain Phasma meets her end on Supreme Leader Snoke's ship, falling to her death after a brief battle with Finn. And again, we're not entirely sure Phasma's dead, seeing as this would be the second time in 2 movies that she has died by an explosion on a First Order base. So it remains to be seen whether or not she's officially dead, but probably dead this time. Anyways, she falls to her death after, I think, a pretty lackluster fight with Finn. He gains the upper hand because she thinks she wins, and then gets knocked down and the floor falls out from underneath her. Pretty lame death to a character we knew not a lot about, but what we did know was pretty awesome. She's the first person to have armor that is resistant to blaster bolts, which was a really cool idea. I mean, isn't that the point of armor? So that was really cool to see, some armor that can deflect some blaster bolts. Also, her fighting with her spear/staff was very interesting, very unique, and would have hoped to have seen a little more of that, or have a more impressive of a showdown between Finn and her. Actually, it would have been kind of cool if she made it to another episode after, and Finn kills her. Then doesn't matter. Anyways, pretty lame death, not a great fight. So, would have liked to have seen more from her, or at least have gotten a better death, bare minimum. Now, number 8. I struggled between who should be number 7 and who should be number 8, but I ended up going with Lord Sidious, or Emperor Palpatine. Obviously, Lord Sidious, Emperor Palpatine, one of the most powerful individuals we ever experienced in Star Wars. Very brilliant, scheming mastermind. Manipulates the Jedi as a senator and as the Supreme Chancellor. Takes over the entire universe. I mean, just an amazing villain. Super powerful Sith Lord. And, I really like his death from a standpoint of what it does for Darth Vader's character. Really, really love how we get to see in episode 3 Anakin chooses to help Emperor Palpatine as he appears helpless to Mace Windu, and then we see that kind of turn around as Darth Vader chooses to help his son, Luke Skywalker, when he appears helpless as he's being attacked by Emperor Palpatine. So love that, what that does for Darth Vader's character, Anakin Skywalker's character, and also the idea of him killing his master, also fulfilling that idea of Sith, killing their master, the apprentice killing the master. However, really, I mean, he was thrown down just like a random shaft. I really like the idea of Darth Vader killing him, but I really don't like the idea of him just being thrown off a cliff and he does nothing about it. Just a really lame way for this guy to go. Like I mentioned, there's so many things about his death that I like, but just the finale of being thrown over the edge and not doing anything about it, or not seeing it coming and at least attacking Vader for a bit, I don't know. Just a pretty lame death. I mean, that's why he falls onto this list. Now coming in 7th is the great Grandmaster Luke Skywalker. Now I could be a little biased, seeing as I grew up with Luke being the Jedi and it's probably my favorite in Star Wars. But if I want to break it down, I do think there's many things to be said about Luke's appearance in Episode 8, but we're not really going to touch on that right now. What I do want to discuss is that Luke Skywalker comes back in Episode 8 in the last minutes to face down the First Order. How impressive that was. I think that's what everyone wanted, was Luke to go head-to-head with them, and we were all excited to see that. We find out, he's almost gets blown to bits. I know in the theater, I was like, oh my gosh, that's how they killed Luke, what the crap. And then he was still there. I think the entire audience cheered when I saw it. And then looks like he's going to sacrifice himself like Obi-Wan did. I was definitely having flashbacks to that scene with Obi-Wan and Darth Vader. But when he found out he was a Force projection, that just, sailed Luke over the roof. He was amazing. He had done something we had never, ever seen before. I don't think we had even conceived that the Force could project you across the universe, millions and millions of miles. It was just absolutely insane, and really showcased to me that Luke was a powerful Jedi. Now, the reason his death sucks to me is that after this grand display of power, he dies. Now, whether he dies because he's tired or he chooses to fade into nothing and become one with the Force, I don't know. But what I do know is that it really puts a damper on what Luke just did. He didn't go and become a martyr, because he didn't really go there, so I can't really say he martyred himself to protect the Resistance. I also don't think it's fair to say that he was the most powerful Jedi. Even though he did this amazing feat, it also killed him. So I think that brings a lot of questions and kind of downplays that amazing scene we were just given. So that's why Luke falls on this list, is for his death minimizing the impact of what he had just accomplished. Now, moving on, number 6, and I do think this is appropriately numbered, is of course Order 66. Now, I can't fault George too much because he had to kill off a ton of Jedi and explain what was going on in a relatively short amount of time as he was trying to capture the rest of the important events of Episode 3. However, a lot of these deaths were just really stupid. The deaths that we see on screen are all members of the Council, generals, battle-hardened Jedi warriors who fall victim to some of the dumbest things. Particularly, I'd like to mention Plo Koon. Plo Koon is regarded as one of the best pilots ever. Best pilot in the galaxy, and he dies because some clones shoot at him and he crashes. I don't know, it seems like a kind of slap in the face to this great master Jedi. Nesk Stas Ali, just going on her cruiser and just gunned down. Doesn't really flinch when her clones drop behind her. I don't know, that seems very strange. And probably the worst, I think, for many of us is Aayla Secura. Watching Aayla stand there, if you look closely in the scene, she recognizes her clones are pointing their guns at her, and she just looks around. Her lightsaber's in her hand. She never even ignites it. She just takes it and dies. I don't know. I really think there could have been a better way to showcase the surprise and better end to the Jedi. You know, I mean, at least with Ki-Adi-Mundi, we get to see him deflect some of the blaster bolts before he's overwhelmed by the gunfire. I mean, that could have happened. We could have played these Jedi up a little more. So that's why pretty much the entire of Order 66 falls down on the 6th death in Star Wars history. Alright, now breaking down that top 5, we're going to start off with Coleman Trevor. Not a lot of people honestly know much about Coleman Trevor, but what I do know about Coleman Trevor is he was a member of the Jedi Council. And despite that, when he jumps up to confront Count Dooku in Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, you see him face off with Jango. Now, keep in mind, his lightsaber is drawn. He's in the middle of a battle. He's looking for a fight. He's currently deemed one of the 12 most powerful Jedi. And yet, Jango pulls out his gun and pops him a couple times. He does get off a couple blocks, but along the lines with the Order 66, this great Jedi Master is incapable of deflecting a few blaster bolts when he was prepared to do it. I do think it was interesting to get to see Jango Fett be powerful. It's one of the few times we see a character kill a Jedi who's not like a Sith. So that's kind of interesting to see, a Jedi killed, by a named character on a one-on-one matchup. So that was really cool. It really boosted my opinion of how powerful and Jango is, but it's a pretty disappointing way for a Master of the Council to go. Kit Fisto, another member of the Jedi Council and one of the 4 members who goes to arrest Chancellor Palpatine and as well as accuse him of being the Sith Lord, hand selected by Mace Windu for this job, and so a very powerful Jedi. Obviously meets his end in that arrest, or failed arrest. And we'll go into that a little bit right now, talking about that scene as it's very important. So Mace Windu, upon hearing from Anakin that Palpatine is the Sith Lord, Mace Windu assembles a team of 4, which is Agent Collar, Saesee Tiin, Kit Fisto, and himself, to go and arrest Palpatine. And they're actually killed in that order. Kit Fisto is the only Jedi besides Mace Windu to actually use his lightsaber. He is able to parry, I think it's 3 blows before he's struck down by Emperor Palpatine. But even though he blocked, a couple of strikes, it's still a really pathetic way for a Jedi Master, let alone one of the most skilled Jedi Masters, to go. Don't remember if this is still canon. I'll have to look it up and I'll add it in the comments. Kit Fisto at one point was regarded as one of the few Jedis who had mastered all the different styles and forms of fighting, excluding Vapid, which was Mace Windu's one of his exclusively practiced forms, which is a feat that only Yoda has accomplished. So, obviously a very experienced fighter, and a very sad way to go. I do give him a benefit of better than some of the others, seeing as he gets to actually use his lightsaber, but what can you say? He was a 3rd in line. He watched 2 of his friends die and only got a couple blocks in. Pretty crappy writing, George. Number 3. I don't know how you can make this list without including Padme Amidala. It's hard to think of a character who got more screwed by a lame death. I mean, sadness, really, George? Come on. Padme Amidala, Queen at 14, Senator, total badass on the battlefield. I mean, what's not to love about her? Played by the great Natalie Portman. I think everyone loves Padme, and everyone can agree that her dying was unfortunately had to happen, but really, really poorly executed. I love the fact that she's hanging on hope for her husband Anakin, but sadness. I mean, could have just went with some medical complications. Anything, George, anything. But all right, number 2. Time to go back to the arrest of Chancellor Palpatine. Saesee Tiin. Saesee Tiin was one of 5 Jedi, and that includes Yoda and Mace Windu, who was on the Jedi Council for all 3 prequel movies. If that doesn't tell you how awesome of a Jedi he was, I mean, I don't know what else will. He's regarded as a Jedi who was super in tune with the Force and could understand what was happening. Didn't seem to help him a lot here. He was the 2nd Jedi killed in the battle with Chancellor Palpatine. And, I mean, Agent Collar was first, but I do give him the benefit of the doubt just because Palpatine obviously is a very powerful character. First one to die, could have been surprise. But Saesee Tiin, this great master of the Jedi Council, with his lightsaber drawn, knowing he's facing off with a Sith Lord, just stands there and never even really lifts his lightsaber after his friend gets killed right next to him. Really, really stupid death. Pretty crappy way to go. It seemed like George really wanted that one-on-one fight, so we have to watch some amazing Jedi get killed in pretty stupid ways. Alright, number 1, here it is. Maybe this shouldn't really come as a big surprise, but Boba Fett made my number 1 for worst death in Star Wars. I mean, he's Boba Fett, right? Son / genetic clone of the great Jango Fett. He hunted and captured Han Solo, something that apparently several other bounty hunters were incapable of doing. He's amazing. I mean, everyone liked him. He had such this mystique about him, but we knew he was impressive. Plus, he just looked super cool in that Mandalorian armor. However, he meets his untimely end by the malfunctioning jetpack, much like his father, as he gets hit by a blind man and flies into a ship to fall and tumble and die into the Great Sarlacc pit. So, pretty rough death. Really stupid writing. I don't know how much you can say about Boba Fett's death, but I think we can all agree it's probably the lamest death in Star Wars. So, hopefully they change his death and make it as he sort of escapes the Sarlacc pit again, make that canon again. That would be great. But anyway, Star Wars fans, that's our top 10 lamest Star Wars deaths. I mean, let us know what you guys think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? If you agree on every one, I'm kind of concerned. But hey, let us know. Comment who you think had a worse death, or dispute us on the order. We'd love to hear what you guys think. And stay tuned for more of our podcasts. We have some great things coming up. Get us on Instagram and Facebook. We try and ask questions, and we pull from you guys' answers. And check out some of our other podcasts. We always like to see what you guys are thinking, what your hopes are, and thoughts about the upcoming movies. Hey, we might even give you a shout out right here. So let us know what you guys think. See you next time.